Hey everyone, welcome back to the Archangel 15. Today I have a very interesting presentation planned. I covered a lot of this information in my Theory of Everything series, numerous videos there. I'm going to kind of get into a certain aspect of that I want to just embrace in a separate video. It may get more viewership than having to watch the whole 11-hour series to see specific pieces of this information. I essentially want to implore into a deeper elemental quandary of exactly how human consciousness works. This is above and beyond the scope of what is recognized and realized in our medical community, our scientific community, our education community, organized religion, or just the general consensus for that matter. It's very involved, and I have a lot of stuff to cover in a short amount of time, so please stay with me. There's certain things that I'm going to cover at the end that bring this all together. So I know it's very hard to stay through some of these presentations. I'm going to get with it here now, but please stay with this one until the end. I don't know exactly, where everything goes from here. We live in a crazy, chaotic world right now, but it's very important for all of us to tune into a higher level of consciousness and a metaphysical realm for that matter. Some of the subject matter that I cover on various presentations is of extremely high controversy, given the conspiratorial nature of, the subject matter. I really believe that I've been targeted, poisoned. God only knows what hit with probably electromagnetic pulses. You can guess for yourself. So the truth about consciousness is, there's many people that have, like I said, delved into this for years. There's hundreds of thousands, if not more, of peer-reviewed medical journal articles, books, scientific publications that have basically all contravening views as to how consciousness really works. Almost none of them really agree. I'm deeply, deeply intrigued by this for many reasons. I think a certain aspect of it gets into a genetic element, and then also having experienced numerous near-death experiences myself, and come back, I almost feel like with a higher level of consciousness than people who maybe haven't had near-death experiences. It really broadens my perspective on this. Let's first mention brainwaves. Okay, so there's different ways of measuring consciousness, and another thing is it's very controversial as to when it really starts. Some people would say it starts at conception. Some people may say it's in the second, third trimester, or some people may say it takes even a year or so after birth. I don't. A lot of people have this debate with christenings and baptismal ceremonies for kids. I believe the Roman Catholics, which I'm not too fond of, they do this at a very young age. My mother always told me, and I always believe that the kids should know what's going on before they accept Christ into their heart or accept a religion. I mean, you should give them that free will and choice. This kind of overreaches on the whole concept of free will, and I'm going to get into a deeper, I guess, plan of the elites and the military to basically override this and turn us into robots. I'm going to mention more stuff about my favorite book, The Body Electric, but understand first off the electrical nature of the brain and the electrical nature of our bodies. We have a biofield. This is proven. Like an orb or aura around us. Some people more than others, and it said that Jesus, he could heal people just by touching his garments. And there's definitely people that are healers, definitely people that are mystics, people that can tap into, extra sensory information. And, I have a whole separate presentation on the Akashic Record, which is the compendium of all past, present, and future events stored on the etheric plane. You can watch that presentation separately. But let's get into brainwaves. So there's alpha, delta, theta, gamma, probably the different brainwaves. Just understand that. And the real interesting part of this is the subconscious aspect. Sigmund Freud was obsessed with this, or really deep into this. You get into the ego, the superego, the id, and different levels of not only consciousness but perception of reality. David Icke has many things he's done on this. And there's this understanding that we live in this holographic matrix, and I mean, I can tell you everything is very real. There's different dimensional planes that come into it. We have our our bodies. We have the realms. I guess that everything we see is reflections of light, and then You know, different elements that like kind of make up the world that, as we perceive to be the world. But then there's things that we can't see. The air we breathe, music, for instance, harmonic melodies. You know, there's like where the angels operate, and like a spiritual realm as well. And like, you know, I don't want to sound too crazy here, but like some people, like maybe you stare like a windshield or something like this, and you can see actually like air bubbles that move around, or see things. And like I talked in the past about this is why they want to vaccinate people. David Icke did a study, or like a whole bunch of videos with the Zulu tribesmen in Africa, and like I guess they could see these UFOs, and the white people came and they took the crashed UFOs supposedly, and vaccinated all the African people, and they couldn't see the UFOs anymore. And you know, like I said, that's when you understand like the different dimensions, you can understand how UFOs really work. And it's not like so far-fetched as it sounds. It's a deeper element that connects spirituality and physical reality all together. I'm not going to get too deep into that, but like I said, understand, you know, there's different brain waves. And gamma waves is like the highest level, when we're like almost in between sleep and like, I guess, coherence. And like there's like people like Edgar Cayce, the godfather of holistic medicine, that could go into, like I can do this as well, where you go into these paralytic trances and like almost have psychic dreams as well, and other really, really interesting things of like, I guess, are on the outer reaches of what is even acknowledged by the physics community. And, you know, quantum physics it gets into. Years ago, my father gave me a book called Quantum Faith, and it like really, really sparked an interest in physics with me. Like basically our thoughts that come out of our brain, even in their most innate form, like even just to go from like to move my fingers, you know, it's like an electrical connection, and it like is matter. And like, you know, like the thoughts that we surround ourselves with, and like others as well, you know, is it positive? You know, when you like surround yourself in positive energy, positive things are likely to manifest. The opposite is true for, you know, negative energy and negativity, and people who, you know, just live in, you know, their own crap, so to speak. And you know, we all know people like this, like a Debbie Downer type people. And the subconscious state is really, really intriguing as well. And you know, like this dichotomy between being awake and being asleep. And you know, and like anesthesiologists, you know, this is like what they're all about, is like understanding this fine line between, you know, consciousness. And anyhow, you know, there's this notion that consciousness exists independent of the brain. During mummification process, the Egyptians would actually remove the brain and discard it. They thought that like they didn't think the brain was of any value at all. You know, I've mentioned in numerous past presentations, and if you're a loyal listener, I'm sorry to put you through this all again, but about my 2015 life-changing event when I discovered the International Association of Near-Death Studies, and also the profound work of Dr. Bruce Grayson. He's like one of, if not the world's most leading researcher on near-death phenomenon. I watched a lecture he did, I think it was in India. It's called The Consciousness Independent of the Brain, and it almost brought me to tears, having been through many numerous near-death experiences myself. And you know, it explained why I felt the way I have for years, and it like also gets into like, you know, why like people who have these, like a lot of like ex-military people, for instance, like why they're so out there, like they can never like almost experience love again, or like they can't find people because they're like, you know, basically I can tell you that once you pass through death's doorway and you come back, it profoundly changes you. It changes your perception of time. It changes your perception of reality. And there's an obvious reason that God sends certain people back and not others. I mean, like I've experienced this myself very sadly. I mean, there's people, you know, like just with the heroin epidemic, that like maybe their first, second, third time they did heroin, they died. You know, like very sadly. Then there's people I know that have just no regard for life, you know, and it's like should have died so many times, and they keep coming back, and it's like really, really makes you think and wonder. Not just that, but like even on a battlefield, you know, like why some people have these accounts of like bullets whizzing by their head, and others, you know, they get taken out right away. George Washington, like he was basically like an immortal. There's like the reason they wanted to make him king is like there's all these accounts, and like they don't really talk about these, but like of battlefield heroics, like where horses were shot out under him, people that were like 5 feet away from him were shooting at him, and like the bullets somehow like shrouded, like almost like he had an aura or a halo around his whole entire presence and body. And I really believe that there was like journal articles of his or diary articles about talking about UFOs, not just him, but like other people that like don't get mentioned. And, like back then, technically there wasn't, you know, planes or, you know, surface to air missiles and so forth that it could have been explained for. There probably was. Like this technology's probably existed for a long time, and like they take it underground. They know that about every 5,000 years the Earth's destroyed. Then like they bring it up and allow for certain people to come out with certain achievements, ideas, inventions, and take credit for certain things. It's like really no secret. You know, they think that they're cool because they have this divine suppressed knowledge from, you know, past worlds, but it's deeper than that. When you get into the understanding of the angels and God and God's plan and prophecy, it's much deeper. It's a bigger storyline than just a few thousand years. So, anyways, this Dr. Bruce Grayson, he did this, you know, he's, like I said, dedicated his whole life to this. There's a guy named Chester Carlson, the guy that invented Xerox. He was like one of the world's first billionaires. He basically said he wanted to become he was like a Buddhist. He converted to being a Buddhist, said he wanted to die broke. He donated almost all his money. A lot of it he donated to the University of Virginia, and specifically the research on near-death experiences. And a lot of that, this like information wouldn't be possible without, you know, real, I guess philanthropy, I guess you could say. And you know, like I'm telling you, a lot of this stuff is what I'm going to cover. Please, if you're here, stay with me. I'm going to cover some really cool stuff. But a lot of like this stuff is not going to fly. Like, and this is one of the reasons I would never want to become a doctor or even go to be like anything, because like if you started talking about this, they would like kookify you or say that you were like, you know, out there. And like a lot of the doctors, if you start trying to bring up about near-death experiences, and like a lot of the people that came back from these wars, they just wanted to put them on, SSRIs that block your natural brain chemistry. Like they basically want to cover this up and like kookify you and say that it's the result of a drug-addled brain or an oxygen-deprived brain or something like this. And it's like, this is why many people revert to suicide as well. And like there's really angels among men and people that like I really believe have like this divine knowledge and probably did that. Like probably a lot of musicians as well. I'm going to get into this, but anyhow, like with this Dr. Grayson, sorry to get off topic here, you know, there's many stories about people who were like in and you name it, like severe, like shot in the head, like horrible car accidents, and like the brain scans almost revealed that they had like no brain conductivity or anything. Like their brain was completely smashed, fried, gone, and like they come back, and not only come back, but have like extremely high level of consciousness, like graduate with like perfect 4.0 GPA from a Ivy League university, or come back and be able to play the piano or speak another language or have vivid memories as if they were somebody else. And like I said, there's obviously a reason that people come back. Like it's not like, like God does it typically for a reason. When I found this information out, it immediately challenged like my Christian beliefs. Like, I've been born and raised a Christian, and like I was always told like, reincarnation, no, but it's real. And like I've got like I hope that I've made an impact on many people that are consider themselves to be Christian. But like if this is real, where people can come back playing the piano or speaking another language, then it shows that reincarnation is real. Let's just get that straight, okay? So like, if there's one lie, there's probably more lies. I've talked numerous times about how like there's not one religion that's all right, there's not one religion that's all wrong. They're like all truths and half-truths. The Bible, as my quote always says, is a good book. But it's kind of like Thanksgiving dinner without the potatoes, the stuffing, and the most important part, the gravy. Just leave it at that. So, again, like I said, I've had, personal experience with this. And, like there's this dichotomy also between like humans and animals. And like, I've gotten into my deeper explanation of the afterlife in my Theory of Everything presentation. Real quick, let me just sum it up for you. I don't believe that it's just a concise, there's heaven, there's hell. There's let's just be real. There's a God. Okay, like if you look at the articulate design, there's like 3 proofs of like God's existence. One is the articulate design of nature, how everything has a systematic function, a biological process that it can be explained, whether it's evolutionary, not evolutionary, Just simple cytokinesis, cell replication, for instance, or how photosynthesis works. Other things as well, and they can all be explained at a deeper core. Many of the explanations are not really the truth that we learn in school and so forth. Another one is the periodic table of elements, and I go into all this in my Theory of Everything presentation series much deeper than I'm going to go in here. But like this, if you understand the articulate nature of the periodic table of elements, how everything fits into perfect order, and like the density, the atomic number, the atomic weight, the molar mass, it's all this stuff. It's like too good to be true. And like they even knew the elements that weren't even discovered yet. But there's like these like deeper elements that aren't necessarily true, like how isotopes work and so forth, and like how elements can change into other elements. It's like really weird, and like kind of gets into this notion of alchemy as well. But then the third one is infinite space, and I actually have explained that, like in my explanation of the unified field, that it's like really you come out one side and you go out the other, similarly like the Pac-Man game, and it gets into like dimensional travel, and I guess ultimately our minds are very feeble, and like I said, there's this dichotomy between like so like we live 100 years, we can think that's a long time. The people in Bible times lived several hundred years. And we probably actually could live that long, but they don't want people to know that at all. The elites hoard this for themselves and their greedy, silver spoon, useless kids. They want everybody else to be slaves, and that's why we eat poison food, take vaccines. Now we're breathing poison air, and living in a electrically polluted world that like is not good. Like even the air 5 years ago was quantifiably better than it is today by far. Like imagine 50 years, or 100 years, or 500 years. Like you'd probably pass out if you were back that far, just from intoxication from the dissolved oxygen level. And like I said, there's people that have could like separate their mind from their body. Like Harry Houdini was able to like go underwater and like hold his breath for really long periods of time, or do other really amazing things, and like gets deeper into this what I'm saying. Please remember that example. I'm going to go over other examples. Hopefully I can do this in one part. I'm going to try to expedite this here. But again, the whole thing with animal consciousness, human consciousness. So my thoughts on the afterlife. Let me back up. I'm getting a little bit animated here. Sorry. So like I believe everything is so articulate in God's plan, His inner workings, that I really believe that there's not necessarily you go to heaven, you go to hell, and that's it. Like maybe there's other avenues, maybe like reincarnation, maybe purgatory, maybe like God gives you certain people another chance. Maybe certain people do go to hell. Maybe not everybody in hell's bad. Maybe not everybody in heaven's good. I don't really know. We know what we have from the Bible and other things. Like I said, there's like a lot of elements of the Bible that are not really acknowledged, like certain apocryphal writings, like the Book of Enoch, where they get into the Watchers, and other, just other books that are not really brought to light, and like the translations from the Greek, Hebrew, and Aramaic are not all good as well. Just the stuff that's added and omitted, and the brain. Okay, so like maybe like I said, this is like the best way to describe it. This is like AAA baseball, like where like it's a test for like the big leagues, and like the people that pass, maybe they get to go to like a higher level of consciousness. The Bible speaks of 3 levels of heaven, to be honest with you. Maybe there's more. Maybe there's, I'm not going to get too much deeper into this, but maybe some people come back reincarnated, or they live in purgatory, and like it's not really finite, like it's a kind of like a gray area, I guess you could say. And it's not maybe for humans to really toil with. It says that Michael the Archangel holds the book of life, and like I guess, like there's talks about the pearly gates and the judgment seat and the gates of heaven and so forth. But the brain most definitely has function. Please look up Brodmann's area. I learned about this from Dr. Grayson, but they have the brain like basically wired into like 30, 40, 50, 60 areas. I'm not exactly sure how many it is. They don't like you knowing this, but they can tell you like this area controls whatever. This area controls this, like your like arousal and your sensuality, your mathematical abilities, your ability to reason and judgment. Like every area has its own function. But like the truth is you have the ability to transcend above that. But like they have basically back engineered the human brain, and know that like they can like I said, like basically like microchip you or whatever through your teeth, through other areas, and control you. Essentially, there's a book, Physical Control of the Human Mind, by I forget the guy's name, but you can look that up as well. And like they want to. I'll get into this later, but they want to create like a psycho-civilized society and basically steal our free will and steal our consciousness and turn us into like human doings instead of human beings, as somebody once told me. And like I said, so we have this like brain, maybe has some use, maybe like there's an ability to transcend it. The book, The Body Electric, is my all-time favorite book by Dr. Robert Becker and Gary Selden. It's like a must-read for anybody who loves physics. What I'm talking about. Must. I don't like the elements of the human experimentation on the animals that he did. He gets into so much in the book. It's really, really deep. And like he said that like basically they'd have like these projects that were funded by the government. And, like right as they were getting ready to like do a breakthrough, they lost their funding and like they were taken from him. Almost like he was doing the groundwork for other people that would like basically steal his ideas and continue to keep this information suppressed. So in this book, I was introduced to the notion of piezoelectricity, which is energy stored in your bones. So where's like the biggest bone mass? It's in your spinal column, and it's like a ball of energy. And like I almost believe that consciousness exists in like your spine, or like your bones, or like your electrical core. Like the brainstem is really like the source, where like the birth of all life is. Like if you were like I'm not trying to sound like cool, but like years ago I used to be into trapping animals with my friends. Some simple hillbillies out from Pennsylvania, and I knew people that actually made money doing this. It's actually a renewable resource, but like my buddy told me the stories, like he'd shoot raccoons in the head and like they wouldn't die like 10, 12 times, like they just like didn't even phase them. And then like basically if you shoot something like right here, like right in the brainstem, it like instantaneously kills it. It's like that's just the truth. But I've really, so the Freemasons, the 33. I've heard before. There's like different explanations and theories. I really don't care. It's not like something that's interesting to me. But I've heard that like the 33 vertebrae is what it stands for, and like like I really believe it. Like they know that this consciousness exists independent of the brain, and it's like in your spinal column, and like there's different like levels of understanding that like I guess you attain through like maybe your life, maybe through experiences, whatever. But like I said, my favorite book is The Body Electric, and this is also this understanding of piezoelectricity is where we get fossil fuels from. Like I said in many presentations before, like that's like dinosaur bones. They like basically turn into oil, and there's like energy there. And there's also what's known as petroelectricity, which is energy stored in rocks. And it's been like postulated before that you can actually take rocks and like almost like you could get infinite energy out of rocks, especially certain ones. Limestone is what they cap the pyramids with. Limestone is a very special stone. Just know that. And like basically, if you ever see like Dark Side of the Moon, Pink Floyd, like the light shines on it, and like it's like a spectral analysis, and like there's so much more I could get into. I've talked about this and other things interestingly in the past about like the caudasis, and if you look at the spinal column, it looks like a sperm, especially with the head on it. And like please watch my Theory of Everything presentation series. I'm going to defer you to that. I want to mention another term known as pure consciousness. And like I said, like like this is what everybody really needs to seek ultimately. Like I guess there's other terms to really like. There's many different corollaries to this. Zen, Nirvana, almost like it gets into, I guess you could say, but it's like a spiritual realm of infinite knowledge, being unbounded, like and connected to a higher power, and like being one with God in a blissful serenity and heavenly state of mind. That's kind of a combination of what I took off of searching on Google and like my own explanation. But there's like understand the notion of pure consciousness, and you either have it or you don't. And like people who take like prescription medicine or like whatever, like SSRIs, they're not into this. They haven't the slightest. And like other things too, like plastic water bottles take this from you. And the rich people and the elites, as well as the military and others, they want to hog all this higher level consciousness for themselves. Like maybe I'll post a link to the various cloud formations that I'm able to form. So like certain people have this ability. You can look it up yourself. Supposedly it's easier to do on the West Coast, from what I've heard. But certain people, they can, like basically bend light. They can have like certain orbs around them. They have the ability to, like I said, manifest cloud formations. And there's a book, Mind Control, World Control, by Jim Keith, Engineering Human Consciousness. And book, like I said, like basically the body electric also talks about this understanding of transhumanism. Is what the elites are really big into. This merging humans with machines or technology, which, keep in mind, we already are robots. When you understand it, like the electrical nature of everything. Some people more so than others. There's like different subclasses of humans. All humans are not created equal. It's like scientifically proven. There's like reptilians. There's reptilian hybrids. There's like, I guess, like mammalian people, or like primate-based people, rhesus monkey-based, what have you. And the elites basically, like I said, want a psycho-civilized society where everybody is like controlled through microchips and electro pollution, or like 5G, think of it, or like cell phone towers, and it probably works with it and everything. Also, the air and the water and the food. Like they want to do this to the water and the food as well, and even like a complete genetic takeover. Like they've been doing DNA banking for years and years and years, and they already know who the special alien bloodlines are, and like they steal all the beautiful girls, and like they have this, like the sex cloning I've talked about hundreds of thousands of times probably on my channel, and like it's a real personal issue to me, as they've stolen kids from my mother and I. And like I fight until I can't fight anymore, regardless if they're poisoning my food, regardless if we're all heading for Holocaust or whatever, I will fight until I can't fight anymore. And even if I only have a few viewers here, I'm still here, and I bring it to you, and I tell you stuff that nobody else talks about. Please stay with me. I want to get into some other things here. But if you've ever been I can tell you, like I've done experimentation, like even just on a train. So a train is like almost like a Faraday box. It's like aluminum. And like you can notice a difference there. If you go through a tunnel on a train or the subway, you can notice a difference there. If you go out really far in the ocean, you can notice a difference there. If you go to other certain countries, you can notice a difference there. Now, like specifically, I've noticed the upscale areas. Like for instance, like I live out in Chester County, almost near Amish country. But like when I get near, like when I'm heading to Philadelphia on the train, right when I get to about Fraser or Ardmore, I notice a difference. Like it's like almost like it's like a cutoff point, like right in like Paoli area. And I really believe that like basically where the bourgeoisie lives, they have electric polluted areas more and more. And where the elites live, they get the privilege of not having to deal with this, or maybe a different frequency or something like this. And like eventually what they're going to try to do is sell the idea that like they have healing abilities through microchips, and that they can microchip you, and like they really can. There's this notion of electromedicine. It's been around for years. Like the Body Electric book was written in like 1984, 83 or 2 or something like that, many years ago. And like they're going to push this, and it's going to be like, once again, the elites have this. Or like if you're like a dick sucker and you go to work for the elites and you take it up where, like maybe they'll give you a better frequency or whatever. But like if you're like a scumbag or a degenerate, or like like almost like part of the social credit score like China has, maybe they'll like basically punish you. And like it's the whole point of this is to like almost like to do away with jails, to where they can like punish people through like basically through this like electro pollution, or like basically like hit you, like target you without even sending you to jail. And like it's like a complete takeover of the human race and like God's will for humanity. It's like really the most evil thing, like along with the poison food and poison water. And like they want to like basically create two classes of people that are going to be basically live they're 80, 60, 70, 80 years old, die, and they're slaves for the elites. And then like upper elites who like basically will live probably into their hundreds, and if maybe not, who knows, maybe they won't even live that long. And basically have the sex clones and all this other stuff as well. But like I said, if you got in the ocean or other areas, you'll notice a difference with this, or in a Faraday box, if you're fortunate enough. I can see right now, I'm going to have to stop this and continue. I'm going to stop this right now and then start with part 2. I really didn't want to do that, but you get the point.